Oh my God. Guys, there's another episode of Obscure Chatter happening right now. We're watching a movie. You don't like that you don't know what it is yet. This is like episode 6. I clearly don't care at this point. With me today, I'm Terri Doty. With me today, my guest is... She's a journalist, she's a podcaster, she's a book nerd, she's everything, but to me, she's just my best friend, Sara Pintilie. Hello.
Hey, hello.
And we are watching, I'd say I know this movie more as one of Sarah's favorite movies of all time than the actual title, which it's our second film.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's a pretty good one. Not everybody's favorite.
No, it's not a movie that like a lot of people like, but it is a movie that I think it pushes a lot of creative envelopes. But it's not why I like it. I like it because it has a very personal point to me, and it just was a very comforting movie growing up. And so it's very, very I don't know, close to my heart.
Well, that's good then. I mean, it's one of those because Donald and I touched on this a lot with his episode where like he kind of like laughing at your own pain, tears of a clown type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That he was talking about how it's kind of ridiculous, you know, like bringing up for some people it's a little weird to be like, why are you getting so upset that I hate this movie? I'm like, I hate that you hate this movie because this movie means so much to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And it was actually funny because I was talking to my friend about that. Like, sometimes when it comes to, like, I suffer from a lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, since I was a kid. And so when a movie grabs my attention and then somebody's watching it and they're not, like, kind of bored, I'm like, this movie got through all that shit and it meant something to me. And how dare you look at your phone while watching it. But, yeah, and that's, like, why I like this movie a lot, because it just always has, like, a beacon point to me. I can always watch it and always makes me feel calm.
It's one of the, yeah. Actually, I think I watched it a different way after having known what it meant to you. Because Stephen hadn't seen it. So we watched it and he's like, oh, this is a Sara movie. And this is long before we did like Obscure Chatter or anything like that. But I don't know. I think you touched on a really cool point there where like if you're perhaps just, not necessarily just jaded, but if you've got a lot of things that you're constantly battling on a daily basis and something touches you, you're like, whoa. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to, like, this movie, so when I was a teenager, I used to have really bad panic attacks, and for some reason, this is the only movie. So it's kind of funny. So talking about touching movies that touch you in a certain way that, like, either is good or bad. So
You're like, oh, I had a very visceral reaction to this movie, and that surprised me.
No. It was like, so I had really bad panic attacks, and I needed stuff to watch at, like, 3 a.m. because you don't want to watch, like, Cheaters for the 17th time. And
maybe the one where you got stabbed. I don't know.
The best one. Or the ones where the guys pretend like they don't see the camera crew. Like, they're just, like, ignoring it and hoping it goes away. Anyways, I've seen every episode of Cheaters. Because...
Oh, it was filmed here in the DFW. We knew that. I know a lot of friends that were on set. I'm like, hey, this is weird. Was that you? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you weren't dating this dude. Like, I was for the purposes of this show. Oh.
Yeah. So, I was like, okay, I need something that can, like, calm me down. And this was about the time where it was the transition from tape to DVD. And I couldn't watch a tape because if I went to sleep and woke up and it's all snow because of fucking The Ring, I couldn't do it. So I couldn't watch a tape. Tapes were out. And this is one of the few movies I had on DVD. And so I was like, okay, it's a silly movie, but I'm going to put it on. And it actually worked so well that I watched this movie, I would say on the upwards of 300 times. I mean, I've seen this movie so many times. It's kind of stupid, but it worked. It works on panic attacks, and it still even works on panic attacks to this day. And this is like 15 years later. So this movie has like, so I have both the reactions. I can't watch tapes because of The Ring, and then I watch this movie and it always makes me feel, it's like a security blanket. It's like a Linus's security blanket. It's always nice to have around. And I actually have little figures of these characters at different places in like my house, my work, my car, because it's like a good just like totem of like, okay, cool, I got this. So
I think that's what some people like. It's hard sometimes because you and I, well, This is on you. You gave me my first pop, so
Yeah, that was
the
me.
first one was free. I think it was Castiel and Leviathan, which is like impossible to find. We're both. I talk about Sara enough, but it's that Sara. It's the name Sara complex. I always have to preface it with my best friend Sara.
Yeah.
Because God forbid someone thinks of like the other 10 Saras we all both know. But what was it? Sometimes you kind of have trouble as a, like me, I'm 4 years older than you, like 3 and some change. Mm-hmm. And you kind of sometimes, especially whenever you've already spent some money that day, you see something that means so much, that meant so much to you, like the show or the franchise or whatever. And you're like, man, I would really love to. What it is I would love to look at that every day because that show makes me happy. So therefore, this little thing from it. But sometimes people don't really get that. There's that giant disconnect where it's like, but the time for childish things, which isn't even what like the initial quote was really referencing. But I don't know. I think I'm actually a lot more owning the stuff I loved as a kid more than I did when I was a kid.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. Because it's a thing where like for a while I was like, well, I'm not allowed to have like, you think you're not allowed to have stuff.
Yeah.
And I was really having a really bad time with like depression and anxiety. And I was just like, well, this stuff makes me happy. And I like looking at it and I like seeing it. And I mean, you've been to my house. My house is just covered with pop culture stuff.
Which I love for my birthday. It's like, oh, Terri, this is your house. I'm like, it looks like my house. But no, this is Sarah's house. My house actually has less, believe it or not. Not by much.
But it's like the thing where you want to surround yourself by stuff that makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. And it can be anything from minimalist furniture to, art or whatever have you. And I just feel like if you deny yourself that, like even in the comfort of your own home, it's just like, Jesus.
Right. Like it's a minimalist house, but you open it and it's like nothing but like like colorful things and like why is that in the closet?
Yeah, why is that in the closet? Or and even like silly stuff like I have a fucking giant bullseye pop from Target because I love him. He's so great. And so I was like, no,
I remember
screw
you telling Tia about that at Ben's Christmas party where she's like, tell me what, like she was so fascinated that like I don't know, I don't think bullseye really pulls up for a lot of people.
Well, I'm a big Target fan, which a lot of people think it's kind of odd that like you're a fan of like a corporation, I guess. And like, yeah, I really like Target. I worked there for like 4+ years. And Bullseye was just the epitome of Target. And I just think he's so cute. And the cool thing is the big Bullseye pop that he's like one of those 10-inch like bigger ones. They donated money to St. Jude's. And they used to do this with like these Bullseye stuffed animals. Like they would give money to St. Jude's. And they stopped for some reason. I was really bummed.
Yeah.
So I just like that. And yeah, you have things. I always believe when it comes to like mental health, there's constructive and destructive. And so as long as you're being constructive, who fucking cares? So like, yeah, I like Target. I like having stuff from this movie. I like having stuff from anything that makes me happy. Like right now, I'm going through an it phase for some reason. I have no clue. She did it. But like it's kind of ridiculous how much it stuff I've just bought. But whatever makes you happy, as long as it's constructive and not destructive, like you do you kind of thing.
Yeah. Someone was, what was it? Because right as of this recording, this won't be released till the beginning of November. But as of this recording, I do that thing every October where I watch a different horror theme thing. It can sometimes be just a short little thing, but I'm also rewatching Over the Garden Wall, which I don't think got enough love.
I don't even...
It's a 10-minute episodes, only 14 episodes, and it stars Elijah Wood. It's fantasy. It's about this kid named Wirt and his brother getting lost in the woods and keep encountering all these different things.
That's the Irish fairy tale, right? Or no?
It's not... Well...
Is it animated?
It's animated.
Okay.
And it's based off of, like, traditional artworks.
Oh.
Like, even my favorite episode, what was it? Oh, God. Hard Times at Huskinby, which is the second episode. It's all pumpkin themed, and they run into this town where there are all these pumpkin people. To the point where Wirt and his brother are just in this place trying to find a way to get back home. And then, like, if someone could give us a ride back home, that would be great. And everybody's dressed in all these gourds. To the point where this woman dressed in a gourd looks at Wart and says, "You're a little early, aren't you?" And he's like, what? And then it's revealed that the gourd. Like, it's so cute. But it's fantasy, it's fun, and it's got people like Elijah Wood, Christopher Lloyd, and then, like, stuff. Like, just people with very soothing voices that you don't often hear do voice acting. But anyways, yeah, like I was talking about all these different Halloween things, and I think for a while there I stopped talking about horror because I felt like people didn't get it, but horror is very important to me. We touched on it a little bit with Donald, where we were talking about how I don't necessarily watch something because it's bad horror. Sometimes it's bad and you're like, but I don't know, it tickles me. Or like Dead and Breakfast with like David Carradine. You're like, this movie has no merit whatsoever. But Oz Perkins being, like this possessed zombie lord, why not?
Sure.
Zombie dance number, let's go. And the narrator is just this dude with a guitar that eventually becomes a zombie. So his songs change over the course of the movie. But we were talking about horror films, and this dude was finally like, "Oh, so you actually know your stuff. So what's your opinion on it?" I'm like, it's like, the original. I'm like, well, the original wasn't a movie. It was a miniseries, which I think it's that 30-year cycle of nostalgia that I'm totally stealing from Lindsay Ellis's piece on it, where she talked about the two main types of nostalgia, but then brought up like the destructive nostalgia as well, where I think a lot of the reason people liked it, the miniseries, is because it followed that 30-year cycle of nostalgia that was happening now, which is why when they redid it, or like as an official movie and made, changes to the book, which I made the joke to someone. I'm like, all right, this book was written heavily on cocaine.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. So it's a 1,000-page book that's like wait, what?
Yeah.
And you can still read it, but I prefer the movie, and they made changes or whatever, but I'm like, I can watch both and love both. They're like, but Tim Curry was like the ultimate. I'm like, for you, yes. Yeah. But it's kind of, and I brought up, it's kind of that same thing, to a lesser extent, of people thinking sub versus dub, where it just really depends on how you're introduced to it. I love the show Black Butler. I got into the show watching the Seiyu, and Tatum is the English voice actor for Sebastian. So, tried to say it in the most polite way possible. I'm like, it's jarring because one, it's you, and I personally know you, right? But I fell in love with the Seiyu. That was Sebastian. But both are great. Both are fantastic. And it's actually really nice sometimes to just watch the action. But so it's just how you're introduced to it. But I don't really know if I had to point to any of that. But yeah, like the It thing, I think for a lot of people hate on it just because I think it's fun for them to hate on.
Well, yeah. I get that. Because I so far I'm reading the book for the first time. And I actually prefer the book so far to the movie. And I do see like where, because the original book was based in the kids were based in the 50s. Yeah. And now they did in the 80s. I could see where some of the stuff got kind of lost in translation because it doesn't work as well. Like, because you can't do it in the 80s because there's like better technology and stuff like that. Like this wouldn't have happened where kids are like, hey, I'm just on the train tracks. I'm just hanging out. Or like, the farming community was more of a thing in the book because it was the 50s and stuff like that. And so I can see, but I do enjoy what he's doing with the book, but I think it's because it's the thing. Like, you can watch the movie and you get the visual cues and you get the visual like impact, which is great because I think that is missing sometimes with horror stories. But I do like the POV. And like having like in the book, the Georgie gutter like scene is almost straight like scene by scene. Like the dialogue's almost the same because you don't really, it's not timed. Yeah, there's no like it references to the 50s. It's just a kid in a slicker with this little boat and a clown
that just wanted to play with his brother. His brother's sick.
Yeah, so that scene is almost pretty much the same as if you read it or saw it. But the thing in the book I really liked was that you got to see Georgie kind of justify this clown in the sewer. And he's like, oh, no, this makes sense. Because,
kid logic.
Yeah, kid logic. So it was kind of nice seeing that. Because, in chapter 2, they did kid logic, and they did it better, I think, than they did in chapter 1. But I do really like those movies. I really enjoyed them.
And it's nothing to do with chapter 2 having James McAvoy in it.
I mean,
I don't know. Bill Hader, yeah.
James McAvoy can do no wrong, and I've seen most of his movies, and I know that that's a false statement, and I don't care. I
like Dark Phoenix is whispering back, and I'm like, no. See,
that's the one thing. I don't like him as Professor Xavier. He's fine as it, but I saw him. The first thing I saw him was in Starter for 10. Which is this old British movie about quiz shows, and Benedict Cumberbatch is in it as this dick.
Oh,
and it was a movie that they made for TV and in England, on BBC.
Was it about Countdown or something?
Yeah. And so I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I liked him. And then of course there's Atonement, which has my two crushes, Keira Knightley and James McAvoy in it. So and Benedict Cumberbatch is in that movie too. So he's the rapist.
I don't know why. You're just so positive. He's the rapist.
No, I think it's funny. People are like, oh, he does. I'm like, dude, he was the rapist in Atonement.
I think sometimes, honestly, what really makes a character is seeing them be a completely despicable human being.
Yeah.
But
that's very true.
Cumberbatch, sometimes he plays people that are uncumberbatchable.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you tried, babe, you tried. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, so I really like James McAvoy. He's very good.
Well, and it's something I didn't think about, because the reason I watched the miniseries, my nostalgia thing, I was in love with Jonathan Brandis. And he played the younger version of Bill. And so, rewatching it, it does not stand the test of time.
No.
But also, there were stipulations that they had to stick to because it was ABC broadcast. And there were some great working actors in there, or kids. Seth Green is the younger version of Richie. And what was it? Emily Perkins, who I know from all the Ginger Snap movies. She was the younger version of oh my God, I just forgot her name. Bev. Yeah. I wanted to say Beth, and I'm like, that's not right.
I keep saying Barb. I'm like, that's not right either. I don't know where I keep getting these
We're
from.
in a weird nostalgia. And then with the remake even, there's Finn Wolfhard, who's in both Stranger Things and oh God, I love this movie.
It's so good.
It's some good working actors.
And not only that, but because they made the look more they're you can see she has and she's looking more a than a essentially exactly. I never saw that back there.
Dude, we did right before we start recording, we do this little test because we want to hear a little bit of the movie going on, because for some people, Sarah knows this probably better than most people, but I can't just really, most of the time, unless Sarah and I are arguing or Steve and I are arguing, I need background noise. And even then, actually, I remember distinctly, if there's background noise, I will always incorporate that in later the next time I watch it. Anytime I watch Shaun of the Dead, I'm like, hey, my boyfriend broke up with me while the menu was playing over and over again. I got to watch that menu and the little hum of zombies going, for 3 hours as I was getting broken up with.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, yeah, Shaun of the Dead's great. But anyways, so we listened to the movie, and just very, very lightly underneath, and that's why we've got headphones on and all that. But we were just setting that up, and Sarah's watching this how many times? 300 plus, and she's like, oh, I never noticed that before. I'm like, that's what I love about this, is there's always just one thing, no matter how many times I've seen this. Or watching with Donald, Stephen hadn't noticed until 2 viewings before that there was when I'm like, oh yeah, you didn't know, that's a big, they just happened to catch that, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Sarah,
oh my God, the thing about this movie too is that it's about a kind of a realistic thing. It's not a fairy tale. I mean, this is a that is trying to take care of her. She is, and she is, and she's like really trying as much as a can. And there's a scene that is coming up soon where and it was she got because of and she was like, well, the getting up, and she was like, nah, it was because he's a so she like played into it so she didn't like, and it's just like it's really interesting because you don't see a lot of movies about like, and you don't see a lot of movies about like this kind of interesting because now this has to be the and doesn't know how, and then an asshole. I mean, you get her. I get her.
Yeah, she wouldn't get away with this.
You know what? The funny thing, I just remember this. Yeah, it's just so funny that she just has this kind of weird sense of logic, and so I kind of got her logic all the time because it was just bizarre. Like even like the kind of thing, and she couldn't give the because that's I just like that's so cute, but it's true. Oh, yeah,
that's right. Ah,
yeah, I have that tattooed on me. Stephen got it for me. Yay.
We are very close. Weirdly close.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to the point where now I'm just over their house, and Stephen's like, "Oh, okay." He just walks on.
Like, all right. Is this like a group hang or like get out, get out, hissing at him as he leaves?
Yeah.
No, you just don't think about that. Or sometimes it can be like it doesn't have to be the initial watch that gets you. It doesn't sound like it was the initial watch.
No, I mean, I don't remember how we owned this movie. Like, we probably owned it. I probably watched it, and it was nothing. Like, literally, this was the movie that we had. We had like 4 DVDs. I want to say, like, knowing my mom, one was probably like The Doors by Oliver Stone,
or like Thelma and Louise or something.
Yeah,
Val Kilmer.
Yeah, God, she hated that movie. I was like, "Why do you own it?" She goes, "Because it's Jim Morrison." I'm like, "All right." My mom was obsessed with Jim Morrison. Like a little too much. One time, she got super drunk and for 45 minutes explained to me why he was the Lizard King. Like, truly. I was like, okay, I'm 13.
We never really know our parents.
Yeah, I'm 13. Can I go to bed? But
I'm 13. Can I please?
I don't know what you're talking about. Though, again, it goes back to that thing where now every time I listen to The Doors, it's just like, well, he's the Lizard King apparently.
Yeah. Music gets to you. They're like, oh my God, don't you love this? Actually, no one's ever said, don't you love this, to what I'm referring to, which is John Mayer. Someone's like, don't you love John Mayer? Like, I dated this dude briefly that when I worked at a coffee house called, wait for it, Coffee House. He was also a barista there, but he was obsessed with the fact that he was the exact same age as John Mayer.
Weird.
And that he was just as capable and just as talented as John Mayer. So the way that he dealt with that very healthy reaction was to play only John Mayer songs. And, like he only sang those. Like, you did so good. He's like, yeah, I know. John Mayer and I are the same age. So, like, even if, like, John Mayer's just randomly in the background, I'm like,
yeah.
Shiver down the spine, like, duh.
Yeah, I can see that.
Your body is a wonderland. No, thank you.
I love how you and then it's at it.
That's me.
Oh my God, look at the little
so you're totally hearing me, like, snack and drink things and gurgle.
I just, God. Just like, no. I'm doing none of this.
Are you made out of? What are you made out of?
This is made out of 0 fucks. That is what that is made out of. I don't know about, but that's what that is made out of. It's, oh.
Pardon me. That's me at any party.
Oh my god. I love how they're like, no. I'm gonna, like, this one's like squishing himself.
You know, like when it.
No. Oh my god. Oh. Sorry.
All right, Glenn, you've got like 2 seconds to come up with a before it goes to print. I did not do anything for this.
It's the most fucked up looking. Look at it. Look at it. And what is it? And then we got some going on over here with like.
There's absolutely no way any would just let me pick.
Oh, I know. And it's not like because I live the. I never had. It's just like, hey.
You've been fostering.
Yeah, I've been fostering. I've been fostering little itty bitty kitties. And so I only went back into one of the areas. Oh no, I did actually go into the area where you can adopt cats, but I was in to foster.
There's a separate area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because they have to reach a certain weight or whatever.
Yeah, I'm guessing the state of Texas. I just know for the Humane Society, the animals, or at least cats. I don't know about dogs, but cats, they have to get to 2 pounds. Mm-hmm. They have to be vaccinated and they have to be spayed and neutered before they can be adopted. And so that's where fosters come in because sometimes they don't have the space just to make sure that they get to the weight or whatever have you, or they get sick or they need surgery or and so you foster them. So I just foster little kittens that need to get to that weight. And so they just like, I have a spare room, so I just basically let them run amok in that room. So it works out. But there is a separate room because I accidentally went into it because the Humane Society of North Texas is in a very old building off of Lancaster, and it's made out of like cinder
in Fort
blocks.
Worth?
Yeah. Yeah, Lancaster and Fort Worth, which if you don't know, Lancaster is a pretty shady area.
That's where you go for your first tattoo and to leave.
Yeah. Or if you need to be accosted by a homeless person, maybe. I mean, that's also an option.
After you get your first tattoo. Lancaster, yeah, like if you lived in the area and like, oh, where is it, Lancaster? You're like, oh,
yeah.
Can we go during the day?
Yeah. One time my dad got a Groupon for like an El Chico's over there, or like an El Phoenix or something, and it was off of Lancaster. And he was like, there's bars on the window. I'm like, yeah. Don't leave anything valuable in your car, sir. But it's an old, like, 1930s, like, cinder block. Like, so anyways, but they have, like, an area where it said, like, cats and small animals. And I was like, oh, that's where you go to foster. And it's not. But they have, like, in a whole, like, really nice room with all the, like, kitties that you can, like, say hi to and adopt. And then there's another space for, like, the dogs. And then there's the main building. That's where the vet is and the fosters and stuff like that. So you go in there and you inquire about fostering. And they give us kitties to foster or dogs or what have you.
See, I'm learning all this right now. Like, you always hear about that. Like, when one of the rounds that Stephen and I are house hunting, I told you about, like, I wonder why this house isn't, like, selling, and then you see the neighbor next door, like, constantly fostering animals. You're like, yeah, like, good for her, but, like, man, that would get tiresome if they had very troubling dogs all the time. Yeah,
behavioral issues, because, like, luckily the one I foster for, they actually will tell you, like, okay, this one is just needing to put on weight, so it's like a 1 to 2 week foster. This one needs has behavioral problems, needs behavioral help, or they're feral or whatever. So you know what you're getting into most of the time. And so you get the little, and it's kind of cool because, like, even when I was there was a little chicken, like a little chick. And somebody fosters chickens. You can foster chickens, and you can foster horses if you want to. I mean, like, granted, you can't foster horses because in the state of Texas, you have to have a half acre or more per horse. I know this because my mom really wanted a horse, and
chickens. It would depend on the district. Some chickens, you're not, or by the county, you're not allowed certain chickens or a certain city ordinance. It would depend on the city ordinance. You're never allowed to have a rooster.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, we've had chickens and we're looking to get chickens again. But there are some saying, well, like we don't have a thing that says you can't have chickens, but if they're a nuisance, then yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so there was a girl that was fostering chicks. Like, they need fosters for whatever. So if you have a weird, like if you want to foster snakes, people foster snakes, that kind of stuff.
You would never foster snakes? You're a snake lady.
I am a snake lady, and I really want a snake, so I wouldn't mind fostering snakes.
The cats would hate that.
Yeah. I have 3 cats, and as much as I would love to have a snake, there's 2 reasons why I don't have a snake right now. 1, because I have cats. And 2, I love snakes so much that I would just feel bad about having them in a cage the entire time. I'm just like, you should be free. So the only way I could justify, I guess, if I do adopt a snake, and then if they were like an albino snake, because then I can justify in my head that they wouldn't have survived in the wild anyway.
My friend Mercedes had a blind snake.
Oh, it's a blind one. That's so cute.
It's blind. And then, one day it's like, what happened to the snake? We felt like it was about to die, so we let it out. I'm like, I don't understand that logic at all. You just left it up to, you're probably going to die soon. Let me help you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sad.
What kind of snake was that? They're like, don't worry about it. I'm like, I don't know.
I would worry about it.
I live in the same trailer park as you, so I'm going to worry about it.
I love how defeated he looks when this happens. And he's just like, I'm fucking... That's like my cat. So when my cat, when I put a harness on her, she's like, I'm dead now. I'm just dead. I actually took her to the vet. I had to take 2 of my cats to the vet, and I only had 1 carrier that could fit 1 cat. And so I was like, shit, what am I going to do? And then I have a cat that has cerebellar hyplasia, or CH. I'm not 100% sure if it's cerebellar or cerebellum. I'm not sure. But basically she, her equilibrium, the part of her brain that controls her equilibrium is not underdeveloped. So she walks around like she's drunk all the time.
An adorable drunk.
An adorable drunk with heterochromia, which is 2 different color eyes, a very groovy mutation.
See? Hey! Hey, yo! Sorry, everyone.
But,
such dorks. Anyways,
And so, I put a harness on Tattle, and Tattle's just like, because she has such an issue with equilibrium, she's like, I'm dead now. I just can't move. So I literally just took her to the vet because it's like, it paralyzed her. And I was like, well, fuck it. Let's go. And I just carried her, and they're like, wow, she's so good on a harness.
Sure.
Let's go with that.
It's like taking the kid that doesn't want to go to the dentist, just dragging him in, get him! I almost said a joke name, but there was that time we were at Half Price, and this woman just did not want to look for her kid, so instead she went, Declan! Declan! And then, Decky!
Yeah.
Oh, and that's when I when you straight up look at your best friend, you're like, I'm sorry, Decky. Decky.
Oh my god. I was like,
Declan,
wow.
Get up! Gonna get your teeth cleaned. Declan!
I always feel so bad for this guy. He gets so friend-zoned.
He should be so lucky. It's that whole thing. I'm like, is that... Sometimes you watch something, and it's a time capsule. Everything's a time capsule, but sometimes things don't age well just because you're like, oh, wow, that's not acceptable behavior anymore. Yeah. But I was honestly thinking, I'm like, is friend zone actually a term that we use anymore? Because then there's this understanding of, what's so wrong with just wanting to be friends with
that's
somebody?
Fair. Yeah.
I'm like, I still get what you mean, though, because it's trying so hard. But I don't know. I still say it, but then now I feel bad about it. I'm like,
that's fair. I just know that, okay, maybe it's unrequited feelings.
There you go.
There we go.
I love
Yeah, he's pretty great.
anybody from which I'll have to edit, obviously, but I love that. I love it. or you were talking about Target earlier, it made me think of Superstore, which I found like you were the only one that was really talking about it. Now I feel like I'm the only one out of like the actor friends of ours that talk about it, because Steven's Halloween costume, I love this because it won't be till November that everybody gets this, but he's going as Brexit specifically because of Jonah.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's the most hilarious, clever costume. I'm like, no one's watching Superstore.
No,
That's what I took away from that. No one's watching Superstore.
Yeah, it's such a good show. I really like it because it does feel like a show that, like, if you worked in retail, it completely encapsulates that. Excuse me. And then, but not only that, but I think it's just really, it's clever and it's smart and it's funny and you just makes you laugh. I really like it. It's one of those underrated shows. It's like another show that like nobody watches and I only watch, which is like Speechless.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's a TV show with Minnie Driver, and she is the mom of a kid with cerebral palsy.
Oh!
Cerebral palsy. I just did the thing where I didn't know it's cerebral palsy. Palsy. Good night. And he's a nonverbal, in a wheelchair, and it is actually played by a nonverbal, or no, he's verbal, but the character's nonverbal, and so, but he has a cerebral palsy, and it's a really great show, and it has another working actor that is in a lot of stuff, but he plays the dad, and then like the chick that was like the ex-wife in 2.5 Men, she plays like the principal that's like scared of Minnie Driver's character. It's such a funny little show, and it's one of the few, very, very few shows that really like accurately shows like disability, especially like a more significant disability on screen, and they do it in a way
where it's not just kind of a throwaway
or preachy. Like, I mean...
overly preachy, or like, this doesn't define me. Like, yes, but, like, if it doesn't define you, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. If it can just feel thrown in like that, it's odd sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and they do, like, some really fun stuff with it. Like, for example, they wanted to find an aide for JJ, and he found, like, the gardener, who is played by another really great... actor, and he has a really big booming voice, and they're like, well, he's not an A, and he's like, but I want that voice, and so like he wanted the voice so he could have like this like more like, it was, you know, they play around with it and they're like buddies and they're best friends and they do all these silly things, and like even stuff where because he is nonverbal, he uses a board and a laser pointer to talk, and so the actors will talk for him, but they do it in such a respectful way. For even if he's arguing with them, he lets him argue, and it's really cool. I really, really enjoy that show. But like, I'm like,
I gotta be real. I remember this show being promoted. I thought it was done.
I don't know if it is, because like I watched. There's at least 3 seasons of it.
What network?
Oh, fuck if I know.
I'm like, if it's Minnie Driver, I never know. I always think FX for Minnie, but she did, what was it? That one show with Eddie Izzard.
Oh, The Richest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was FX.
That was FX.
See, I would watch this.
It's really good. But like, I'm like the only person. Anytime I talk about it, nobody knows what it is. And I'm like, that's so sad.
Minnie Driver, I'm always like, Minnie.
But she plays like the most Minnie Driver character that could like ever Minnie Driver. Like, it's like so ridiculous. She's super like, she plays into that like posh British, but then also kind of crazy, because she's like that overprotective like mom that's like pro like adaptive everything, and like she like fights people to get like ramps, even though like, bro, you don't even come here, why are you doing this? She's like, you need to have a ramp, and you know, that kind of thing. And there's even like a scene in like the pilot where she's driving the van, the handicap van, they're getting to work, and she's like driving like 90 the entire time, and there's 2 cops and they flag it, and the cop's like, we have to go, and he goes, oh no, we don't go after that family. He's like, I'm not gonna deal with her. I was like, that's funny. And like, they want to get to the best school, so they buy like the shittiest house in the school district, and like, it has no roof. Like, it's so silly of a show. But I really, really like it. But yeah, it's that same thing where like, you talk about it and like, nobody watches it, and you're like, oh.
Or like, what are you watching? Yeah, like, what are you watching right now? But like, we talked about that like where we had one of our older lady moments. We're like, it's 10 o'clock on a weeknight at Whataburger, so of course the kids are about to get here.
Yeah.
And be all dangerous. I'm like, when I was your age, we went to IHOP like respectable teenagers. Chain smoked until they made you leave. God, I can't believe how much like just loitering you have to do to really feel like you're having a good time in Arlington, Texas. But we were talking about, like, that's what's so great about this time is there is so much that it could be 5 of us. We could all be into the same exact genres, the same exact, but we could all be watching shit none of us have ever heard of or that we're just not into. Like, oh, I mean to get into that. Like, I'm just now getting into... What was it? The Good Place. Yeah. Which sometimes when it's a bigger network show, sometimes I'm less inclined to like get into it. Or like I was talking to Rico, our friend Rico, because he was like, "Have you seen Joker yet?" I'm like, "I probably won't see it for a while." And he's like, "Oh, that's right. I forgot you're all like counterculture." I'm like, what? I'm so counterculture that, like, maybe I'm so counterculture that I was slightly offended to be referred to as counterculture. I'm like, no, I just, sometimes you can see a movie and be like, that movie really knows how to movie.
Well, I heard, so actually, one of my really good friends, Ryan, he called me. He was like, okay.
That sounds like Ryan.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I went and saw Joker. And I went, okay. And he goes, okay, I'm warning you. It's like, he's like, I think it does a really good job about psychosis. And I went, okay. And I was like, that was my issue, is I didn't want to romanticize the Joker. Yeah. I mean, you know, and he's like, no.
I mean, they're not even doing that in the comic anymore. They're being very real with who he is.
Yeah. And so, and I was like, I just don't want to see like, oh, he's just a misguided. And they're like, no, that's not what happened. He's like, but I would recommend not seeing it in theaters for you. Mm-hmm. And I went, that's fair. I wasn't going to go see it in theaters if I was going to see it at all, because I really, it's hard watching some stuff because I struggle so much with mental health issues. It's like, you don't really want to watch the shit that you're dealing with. So, like, I don't really want to go see Joker because it's like, yeah, this man's, like, losing his grip on reality. I'm like, been there, not really wanting to do that again and watch someone do it. So I'd rather go see, like...
I want to escape.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was the thing. Actually, like, one of your birthday parties where someone kept talking about Breaking Bad, and I was talking to Wes, and Wes and I, we're having our little, like, honey, yes, all this shit, like, just talking about RuPaul's Drag Race, and they brought up like, what are you watching? And, like, they brought up Breaking Bad. I'm like, for me, I think Breaking Bad seemed, and this is a Terri opinion, obviously. For me, I think Breaking Bad is really, really, really popular for a straight, white, boring guy. And the dude, I'm like, I don't mean anything to you, man. And Wes, of course, being a very openly gay man, is like, yeah. And he's like, no, explain why. I'm like, baby, like...
Yeah, you're a straight white man.
You're a straight white man. Like, and I have friends and colleagues that are in that show. I think it's amazing and beautiful, but it's a hard watch. And for me, it's so hard that I don't enjoy watching it. The times that I have on the El Camino thing, I'm like, oh my God, to see how excited people are for that is great, but it's too harsh. Or like if it's like about broken family, or for you and I, we tend to like be like, oh, this has to do with a very troubled mother figure. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Or just any kind of parental figure where it's just well, you have to understand, she's trying her best. I'm like, no, this is not the way we're going to approach this. No. Change. Or the big one that Hulu's it still promotes. It's based on that true story. It's got Patricia Arquette.
Oh, The Act.
I can't.
I watched it because I thought the true story was really interesting, but the show kind of missed the point on some things.
That's what my hairdresser was saying. She's like, I'm not even really like into stuff, because she's known me for like almost 4 years now. She's like, it was a lot.
It was a lot, and it wasn't a lot on the right stuff. But yeah, that one was really hard to watch because of like the Munchausen by proxy and just like that diminutive, like
that was the name of Steven's band, Munchausen by proxy.
Oh,
and so like, that's an interesting name, and I'm like,
sure.
Like, well, I can barely say it. So I'm like, well, what band are you here to see? I'm like, the long-named one.
The long-named one. That's funny.
But anyways, yeah, you were sick.
Now I'm watching the movie.
It's a good one. But yeah, like Joker, and it did look like that. Of course, there's that one website, and I will bleep it. Of course, can sometimes have really, like, I love the way that they're dissecting and talking about how actually feminist horror it is. So, the way they're like, I'm sure this wasn't, point to this. I'm like, actually did I keep forgetting he's passed, did write a lot of stuff and focus a lot on female heroines. But This is also the same guy that brought us some very heavy sexual assault on females too, that I can't, it can always be alluded to or whatever, but if it's like this is a rape scene, I can't do that. But they did something about was talking about Joker, and it was just this how it's romantic, like, let's visit how Joker treats female characters. I'm like, well, it's about Joker, so I'm guessing not well.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
We can't pretend, but we were talking about that. What was it? It was that comic. Was it a Batgirl that got pulled?
It was Are you talking about the cover?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there was a Batgirl cover where it was referencing to The Killing Joke, which in The Killing Joke, Joker shot Batgirl. She just happened to open the door and he just shot her. And paralyzed her. And so there was a cover that they did where she was being kind of
muffled or something.
He drew like the Joker smile on him or on her, and he was like standing in the back, and he was wearing like the shirt that he wore in The Killing Joke, because he was wearing like this very iconic tropical with the camera and stuff like that. And everyone got really up in arms about it because it was like promoting assault. But I mean, I'm fine with them pulling it. I can see where their argument was, but I also thought it kind of talked about her trauma.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, because it is canon that he did shoot her and paralyze her, and they just...
that became a whole other thing for Barbara.
Yeah, and it was... because she was Oracle. And so it was a big part of her storyline. And then, like, when they did, like, New 52, which was a story event... They basically just went, we found this, like, chip that we can put in your spine and make it where you can walk again. You're like, all right, fine.
Or in some variations, it's like the suit itself can make it. Yeah.
So it just all depends. But it's always been a trauma because there's, like, even in the Gail Simone... I love her. I know, I do too. She wrote the New 52 Batgirl, the first leg of it. And there's a point where, like, Batgirl was, like, fighting some thugs, and a thug pointed a gun at her almost the same as Joker, and she froze. So it's, like, a part of her, like, psyche, and, like, anyone who ever's dealt with the trauma thing, you can't, like, just ignore that happened. And so I get why the cover was insensitive.
Yeah.
But
if you're just perusing shelves or something, I could see what that's jarring.
But I'm like on the fence on, like, I thought it was more about the trauma and not necessarily about, like, I don't know. So, and then one thing that really pissed me off about Batgirl is they tried to retcon Killing Joke and said that, like, that just happened in her mind. And I was like, no, you can't do that.
What was it? Oh, God. What, like, it wasn't necessarily about Batgirl, but they were, like, basically trying to just be like, a lot of this stuff was a dream.
Yeah, basically. And I was like, you can't do that. I mean, you can, I guess. But, like, I feel like... a lot of it does become, well, we can't do anything bad to women, and therefore then it becomes misogynist. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. You can have traumatic characters and have traumatic things happening to women characters. It's just, it can't be the woman in the fridge dynamic.
Yes.
And I don't think
they're a lot more aware of now.
Which, I mean, and to be fair, it was a woman in the fridge dynamic in The Killing Joke. I mean, it absolutely was.
That's why the cartoon or the animated movie did so poorly. And, like, if you were going to do that, you should have done that ages ago.
Exactly.
And when it was still like, oh my God, did you see about this? But, like, it came out a couple years ago. It it was not good.
No, and but I like that they actually built like Oracle out of it, and they built all those different things about it. So yes, it was a woman in the fridge trope, and it's very unfortunate that they did that. But the way that they kind of rebuilt from it and made her into this even more incredible character that had a disability, that still has a disability, because she still has she still has to deal with trauma. And, like, I just read an arc where her chip was malfunctioning and she was losing, like, feeling her legs and stuff like that. So it's always going to be something that she has to, like, deal with. I mean, she didn't walk for years, you know?
Yeah.
And it was always a big part of her personality, her determination to be like, well, I can't fight crime this way, but I'm also a super genius, so I can fight crime this way. And, like, even, like, when it came to her relationship with Dick Grayson, Nightwing, how they dealt with that, and how he always viewed her as the stronger person and all these. I really, really like what they did with Batgirl, and so it's taking that shitty thing that someone just used as a plot point, but building into this really dynamic, nuanced character. And so I feel like there is a way to like not utilize, but like fix without it being retconned.
Yeah. Or hey, I didn't like that. Or it's kind of like a group project where all of you are writing the same story, but it's passing it along. And by the time it gets back to you, you're like, wait, no, I was setting this up to be that. And it's like too bad. What are you going to do now with the way it is? You can't just be like, and then she woke up from that dream.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But, we've talked about comics numerous different times, or like Jessica Jones, like the show, and how some of our male friends were like, oh, because this happened to her, like, that's why she likes rough sex. We're like, no. Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
she just likes rough sex.
She just likes rough sex. It has nothing to do with what Kilgrave did to her or anything like that. But that one was underrated too. But I think it also, that was a whole show thing. But I mean, with Joker specifically, I think there was even, what was it? You were telling me about this, and I meant to look it up. But now that I've got it on track, I'll actually remember to look it up. What was it, like, where Joker like became sane somehow? So
this was a miniseries, an AU alternate universe miniseries. So this means it's not canon. But this author named Sean Murphy, he's a really well known artist for DC, and he writes stuff here and there. He wrote that punk rock Jesus. That's why I bought it.
Okay.
And so we do all our shopping together. If you have not figured this out yet, we just buy everything at the same time.
We actually have a method. Anytime we go to a bookstore, if we've been there before, it's like we know exactly where to go. If people try to talk to us, we ignore them.
Yes, and then we get super loud, so everyone just leaves the area. So it was basically where Joker, he is basically force-fed antipsychotics, this like new kind of antipsychotic, and he actually becomes sane and like realizes the problems that he was dealing with, and like how he treated like Harleen, how he did this. And it was really fascinating about like how much that was part of him and how much he hated it. And it was it was really fascinating, because then it kind of got into like how psychotic is Batman.
Oh yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So it's like that whole, like, because in the Killing Joke, the whole point of the Killing Joke was that you can't have one without the other.
It has to be balanced to the force.
Exactly. And they did that with Death of the Family. They're two different things. I'm not getting down that rabbit hole. But Death in the Family, and they were doing this with this White Knight thing. And it's really fascinating, because it is just kind of the storyline of just like Joker just going, holy shit, what the fuck did I do? And Batman just going, he's plotting to something. And they're like, all right, you need to take a chill pill, just 2 seconds, man. And it was a really fascinating kind of thought process, I guess. And that's why it's not canon, because it absolutely wouldn't work canon-wise. But
what was it? Because like even Joker's like, you guys declared me all this, like, mistrial. This is a mistrial.
Yeah. He basically was like, you guys didn't give me any fair trial. And, like, there was a moment after he took the medication that, like, hey, where's Joker? He's like, oh, he's preparing for his legal defense. And they're like, what? Because, they just basically just throw him in, like, they actually didn't, you think about it, they do absolutely no due process to any of these villains.
Well, no, that's the big thing, because Batman can't, like,
yeah.
No one read me my Mirandas.
Yeah. So, like, he was able to get, like, a mistrial because basically nobody ever did any due process to him. He never was, given his constitutional rights as an American.
But he's a clown gangster. That doesn't matter.
Oh my God. He's so sad. I just love how much land there is around this house. Like, there's no other land. Do they own the land?
I don't. No. Oh my God, you remember, like, we were, without, like, getting, like, too spoiled, we were trying to look up the font.
Oh, that's right.
Specifically for your tattoo. Like, to the point where our tattoo artist that's done a few things for all three of us, Sarah's family, so we always talk about it like it's like a sestra is how Steve and I refer to Sarah when she's not around. Sestra's calling, or I spoke to Sestra. It's an Orphan Black reference.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Hells yeah. But, we were talking to him about the font, and he's like, just show me what you want. I'm trying, help me help you. Be nice to your artist friends. Guys.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the thing when it comes to stories and, like, everyone's getting up in arms, it's one of the things that we try to do, like, because I play D&D with a whole all LGBTQ crew, and the point is that it's you can tell LGBTQ plus stories, but if you get creators that are LGBTQ plus, then you get to tell stories that are not necessarily like the diversity check, like, ooh, I wrote this story. Yes. It's more like you're just writing a story that relates to you, so then there's more diversity involved in it.
I mean, it's more genuine. It's like, write your story. Exactly. Otherwise, it's just, there's going to be just a weird aftertaste.
Yeah, it's always like you're trying to shoe in something, and it's just like, oh, right, I need to put, like, more of a queer spin on something.
Or that, I don't even watch the show, what was it, Big Mouth or whatever, they just got into, like a big uproar because they very badly explained the difference between bisexual and pansexual.
Oh, no.
Where the creator actually was like, hey, we got this wrong. Where it wasn't necessarily that, hey, I don't like the way that you explained it, but it's that they had a character coming at it from the perspective of knowledge, and the knowledge was wrong.
Oh.
Yes, me as a pansexual person, I was like, well, how did they explain it? They brought up binary.
Oh.
Yeah. It was very, very odd. So I read up a bit more about what they did it, and yeah, they had a girl, like, introducing herself, and they're like, what's the difference between this and this? And it's like, well, wouldn't that make you bisexual? And she's like, oh, that's so binary. Blah, blah, blah.
I don't like that at all.
Oh, no, nobody else did, to the point where the creator was like, hey, we got this wrong. And to where others will argue, it's like, oh, it's that woke culture. I'm like, I don't think there's anything bad about being more self-aware of the stories that you're trying to tell that don't necessarily reflect your worldview, but just be aware of how it comes off when it's disingenuous like that.
Yeah, I mean, because you can have all the nuances of this thing, because, like, you identify as pansexual, I identify as bisexual, but it is what we feel and how we believe in, like, our gender, our sexuality, and so to try to shoehorn everything into, like, this one answer, even if it's weird. And so and when you're trying to, like, it's like, I guess one of the examples is, like, I just went and saw a play, and they were trying to do, like, Romanian words, and they used the right Romanian word, but they used it in the wrong context. And it's like, well, you just Googled it and went, yeah, this is close enough. And it's like, well, no, you didn't get that right. And it feels like that, where it's just like,
technically you are correct.
Yeah.
But not culturally.
Right. And so and that's why when creators come in, that's where you get to have that more genuine story. And even like in our, it's 5 players, 1 DM. All of us are LGBTQ plus.
What's the name of it?
Color Guards. And we do like a live stream on Twitch, and we do like a YouTube channel because we want to just we want to do 2 things. One is to have more, we call it, I think what we decided on is queer storytellers telling queer stories, and so we wanted to do that, and then the accessibility of D&D, and that D&D doesn't necessarily have to be like, it's the same kind of, everyone thinks it's one stereotype, and I think Stranger Things helped a lot on like accessibility, going, oh no, you don't have to necessarily do this kind of story. Like ours is all more political intrigue, and we're dealing more with like warring, like it's kind of more like Game of Thrones in the sense of like there's families that like
different factions.
Different factions and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily like we're on a quest. We're just dealing with a lot of like big factions fighting each other because
more world building than quest.
Well, yeah, and it's also like just kind of more about society in itself, not necessarily like a rip from current events, but it's just like who we are in our society. Like, for example, one character and I are in the same faction, but my character is really, really lowborn, and his is really, really highborn. So it's a lot of dynamic and tension between our characters because we fucking hate each other because of it, because we just resent each other. And it was kind of like there was a line in like The Good Place where it was like no matter on which side of the velvet rope you are, you're always going to be unhappy. So it's kind of like that kind of thing. And so, but we do this so that we can be more accessible. And it's kind of interesting because people think that, we're going to do this like huge plug for sexuality and stuff like that. And
bring it up every episode.
And we never bring it up, actually. I mean, like all of our characters are queer.
Yeah.
I think my character is the only character that is mentioned blatantly. About having sex with anyone. Yeah. Everyone else, it's not important to the story right now. So, like, why would you bring it up unless you're like... So that's the thing about creatorship. When it is a creator, it doesn't get jammed down your throat all the time because it's like, I want to make sure you know that this character is this. It's like, well, they can be other things. They don't have to be the defining trait.
That doesn't have to be the defining trait. That's a big thing. Or it's what I was trying to get you to watch the new Queer Eye, because I think a lot of people... But there was, they did a trans man character who's actually been in the news, is really helping with just getting some really archaic shit out of the norm way of thinking. But, one of the things that the guys do is they go into your place and they're like, well, we want friends to know that they can come here. And it was just, nothing but like gay. And the guys were like, I remember being, that 20-year-old, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can have all this stuff, but remember, like, there is no one right way to be you. That this is just one of the many things that makes you you. And I think whenever you're first out, or if you're maybe just trying to learn more as an ally, I think it's very confusing for people. But you're not waving, a big rainbow flag saying like, I am this way, or like my friend who is like a giant metalhead and he's super industrial, and he only when I first met him, he had like a different Tool shirt for every day of the week, like it was a different like album or whatever, and then he's like, all right, it must be Monday because wearing that Tool shirt. But when his boyfriend came up for the first time, someone was like, gay? There were never any clues. I'm like, well, him kissing his boyfriend's a big one.
That's a big one.
Not that you need, and his boyfriend looking nothing like his boyfriend is very crisp, I think, and preppy, and nobody, like, so many people were confused by that. I'm like, well, it's because, like, that's not the only thing about. I would say that, like, to me, is just one of these people that I know in a pinch. Even if I haven't spoken to him in 5 years, I can call and say I need you, and he's fucking there.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great friend. But you just it's really easy whenever you maybe are just a little, I don't know how to say it, like blind to it. that coming in, if you are promoting it as like, this is inclusive, and this is, blah, 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 that it's like it's going to be this thing where they're yelling at me about blah.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what it seems to be. And you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, we've been doing it since February.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems longer in a good way.
I mean, yeah. No, I mean, we started prepping for it because we're trying to, because we really want to the accessibility when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. So we did a lot of prep work for our characters and all these different things, so you can kind of get more of like what you can do. Because I never played D&D before, and I was the newbie, and I still don't really understand like stat sheets. That's why if you ever watch it, like I said, it's on YouTube or Twitch, and we usually do our Twitch on Sunday around 7:00 Central Time. But color guards. If you ever watch it, I am sitting right next to the DM, so the DM looks at my sheet and goes, "Okay, you passed." I'm like, "Yes," because I still don't understand character sheets, but that's the cool thing.
Holding it up, yes.
And that's the cool thing about the character sheet or about D&D is that it's not something that you have to be like an expert in, and so that's really cool. And then also, we are doing a story that is more political intrigue, more cosmopolitan. So we're kind of breaking the notion of like what you think a D&D game is. Where it's like, we're in the woods and we come across like caves and like Dungeons and Dragons, Yeah,
like Donald's talking about, it's like, I can tell you why I love Dungeons and Dragons. That's not going to line up with the 3 other people that are maybe in the room.
Exactly.
Like, and he's like, and there are the people that are like, all right, I'm here to avenge the death of da 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 da. It's like, and that's fine. But then there's someone that's very much like about like it's this and like, and that's not what I'm about. Like, it's everybody loves it for a different reason.
Yeah, and it's improvising. It's improvised story. So you're basically telling a story with a bunch of your friends, and you get to improvise and you get to play off of it. And
I think that's why so many players are great actors and creators.
Yeah, I mean, because it really does make you have to think on your feet. Like my character did something really shitty because she's a shitty person and I love her.
she's blushing saying that. She's a really shitty person.
She's a really shitty person. She's horrible. But she did something really horrible, and then she had to go up to another player, and basically she thought she was going to get arrested. And instead, this character just threw a lot of truth at her, and I was not prepared at all for that. So, like, my character just, I literally just, froze. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. So I just left. My character's like, and she leaves. Because I don't know what to do. I have to process what kind of just happened here. So it's a lot of fun because you are doing that. And it is a lot of fun to play with a lot of LGBTQ players because we are telling a story that doesn't feel like we're trying to tell an LGBTQ story. We're just telling a story.
It just happens to be.
It just happens to have queer characters in it, which is great. And I'm learning a lot about different characters. Like there's a character in the table that I would have never wrote. I would have never written this character, but it's a fascinating character. So I feel like I'm becoming a better writer because of it too, which is really cool. And I really do like that because you have to keep yourself on your toes and really know the motivation of your character, really know their goals and their and so it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it, and it does make you kind of look at those different storylines and look at these different things and go, okay, how would I tell this as who I am?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily fit in a shoehorn, and that's the other thing, because when you're a writer, sometimes you feel like you have to write what you're supposed to write, the character that's supposed to be this specific way, and I've kind of stopped doing that. I'm just like, no, I wrote that story. I wrote the story in the way that the character is supposed to be. This is a YA heroine. This is where this is going to be. I did that story. That story's done. Now I'm writing stories where it feels like it's just, fuck it. I'm going to write the story I want to write.
Yeah. I mean, that's another one of the many reasons I'm happy that you published your book. Mm-hmm. But also, yeah, like that's where it's really good to be your own creative. In also even in like I would guess in a game setting, obviously, like I've mentioned it several times to you, but first time on mic, but not the first time on the show, where it's like it just doesn't seem like something I would really want to do.
Right.
But the way that you speak about it and the way Donald speaks about it makes it more appealing.
Yeah.
To where I don't know if anyone's just really like brought it up in an intriguing way like that.
Right.
But where, I don't know, yes, you have to stay on your toes, but also you don't want to be, you don't also want to play with the kid. Like, it makes me think of like playing with action figures and being like, all right, and then Catwoman busts in and she like kicks him in the face. We're like, no, my character wouldn't let Catwoman, and like, we're just trying to play with toys, man. Like, let's just have fun with it. Like, no, you're ruining it. My character, like, is invincible. Like, guess what? It's the Superman problem then, because Superman's boring.
Yeah.
I need flaws. I need to be able to do that. Of course, there was no way at 9 years old I was like, no, I need you to be flawed or whatever. And be like, dude, just let my Batman Returns Catwoman kick your Barbie in the face.
Yeah.
Idiot. Like,
Yeah.
but...
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going home.
Yeah, I mean, and that's there is that part of D&D, and I actually hate that part of D&D. I hate it. But you have rules. So when somebody goes, oh, Catwoman can't kick this person in the face, the DM goes, yeah, he can. Or, like that's the point of the DM, is that they go, no, they can. You roll. Yeah. They kicked you and you took like four points of damage. And you're like, oh, shit. I hate that part of D&D. I think I've done it enough where I know that I hate that part of D&D. But the DM, if you have a good DM, which I do because it's Wes, he knows that. And so he kind of steers away so that it's a little bit more fun. It's not like full on, let's bring out the minis, let's bring out the map. I'm like, that's where I get bored. If you ever watch it where there's a fight like that, you can just see how fucking bored I am.
We're like, and I'm out.
And Sarah's gone.
Sarah's checked out.
Sarah's checked out and she's drinking a whole lot of rum for some reason. It's like, yeah.
Something to do.
Something to do. So there's parts of it where you can like mix and match. And I was actually talking to Jonathan, who's one of the players in the game, and he said this is he's been playing for 10 years. And he's like, this one's the most like tension, drama-filled one he's ever done, because we've done our research on our characters and like really...
the way that you talk about it makes me think of what we would do for like stage plays, where it's like character study. We would have to write up bios, like heavy bios about our backstory that in no way would ever be like disclosed. But you know that. Yeah, and the one nerve-wracking thing, though, is that because we do it on Twitch, it's live, so you don't get another pass at anything. You're like, fuck it, we're going. And so you might, like, screw up, and you're just like, well, we're just keep going. And so actually that's one reason why my character drinks a lot. Like, my character drinks is so I can get away with how I mispronounce words sometimes and how I slur words sometimes or like mess up. I'm like, fuck it, she's drunk, it doesn't matter, and I can move on. And so it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and it's always really good to like be around creators that aren't just like, just stereotypical kind of whatever. Like, I want to write the next great American novel. It's like, all right, fuck off. Which I think you and I write often because it wouldn't be healthy to stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it keeps me sane.
It does. Like, even if it's just a little scene, it's like that's out.
Yeah, that's out. It's good, and it's something that really does. George Orwell always said that, like, the reason why anyone would go through this hellish ordeal is because you have a demon you have to exorcise, and I really am a believer in that. I do believe that people do write stories because they're pretty or whatever. Do it. The
game is the game.
The game is the game, and you do what you want to do. If you really want to just write beautiful things, go for it. I don't. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to write the story I've read before. And I always tell people when I write, if I know the answer to the I know the ending, I don't want to write it anymore because I already know the ending. That's not the point to me. So when it comes to writing, I do believe in that George Orwell school of thought that it is about a demon that you have to exercise. And even if it's a tiny demon, they have to exercise for like an hour, you know?
Tiny, fun-sized demon. I've been rewatching Buffy and I'm like, oh, I should have read the book. It says actual size. It's tiny. Tremble before me! And they're like laughing, like looking over him like...
That's so cute. That's funny.
No, I'm glad you brought up color guard. Wasn't sure. Like, I'm like, just had Donald on, but it's a totally different beast. It's so funny, though, because I don't really know if you and Donald have met yet.
No, we have never met.
But that would be interesting. I'm like, oh, Sarah got me into this game, or Donald was talking about this game. So I still really want to play. I would have to be, but it's a board game.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, you were telling me.
Gets like superpowers or some shit. Like, yes, bring it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you've gotten me to play some games. I got Lanterns.
I love Lanterns. So good.
Yeah, I did one board game with like Rico and Aaron and our friend Ben and a few other people, and it's like this is like a board game. I was miserable the entire time. But then I'm like, I brought Lanterns, and nobody wanted to play it.
No, Lanterns is so much fun. I love Lanterns. It's like a weird version of Rummy.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. I really enjoy it. Are
you playing anything new right now?
No, I've been kind of off playing board games for a little bit, but I want to get back into it because there's a couple games that look really interesting. But there was one game that Wes is a huge board game guy, and so he was telling me about this game where you have to do like a mini game, and that mini game sets up the bigger part of the game, and it's kind of like Agatha Christie-esque. So you have to do this part and see how this goes before you can actually play the main game. And I'm like, that sounds intense. Or there's this one game that you can play with like a whole party. Like, you can play up to, like, 70 people.
What?
It's called Two Rooms and a Boom. And so, basically, everyone gets into two rooms. And one person's the bomb. And one person's the president. And you don't know who those are. And everyone has cards, and they have, like, so you could be a spy, you can be an agent, you can be whatever the hell, you know, like a go-between, whatever the actual word for that is. And you have to do these trade-offs, and you have to try to trade off so that the president and the bomb are in different rooms. And you have to do this, and like if you have a certain card, you can do specific things. But you can also just fucking lie and do whatever the hell you want, but people can call you out on it. And you can play with a bunch of people. That game was a lot of fun. And it's like, it's just a simple game where it's just basically two rooms. Two rooms and a boom. And I played that at Wes's house with like 30 people?
What?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And that is fun.
Yeah,
it was a fun game.
It was a fun game. Okay. Because it's like Clue. It's like Clue. You have to figure out like all the different things that are going on. And I like those kind of games, even though everyone immediately thinks I'm the spy because I'm just shady as fuck. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. But that kind of works for people. I love that they switch. That so pissed.
Died.
But so it's a lot of fun. I like those games. I like those games where you have to pretend to be someone. That's probably why I like D&D. Because it's like acting, but I don't have to do the bullshit of acting.
But it brings out something in you.
Yeah.
It does. It seems like you're having fun with it.
I like it.
Because what was it? Your character just had like this big thing.
Oh, yeah.
You were like explaining it to me. I'm like, yeah. Terrifying, right?
Yeah, it was terrifying. I was so amped afterwards. They made a pop of that, and I wish I had it. It's fun. I like it. It's always really interesting just to kind of, pretend to, be someone else for 2 hours.
Yeah. I agree. Obviously. Well, sometimes it's just like, well, that's the thing. Sometimes whenever you get cast, it's like, yeah, this character's you. I'm like, but I don't want to be me right now. I want to be like this interstellar, like, sex goddess. Which, I mean, if you think that that's just how I am normally, thank you. But well, as this winds down talked about color guards. We talked about comics. So basically, it was just a typical hang. We just need a bookstore to be in the booth with us.
And 5 more hours.
5 more hours. No, thanks for allowing me to lock you in the booth.
Yeah.
And I hope you had fun.
I did have fun.
So, with that being said, we're going to close this out by saying, join me next time when my guest will be someone else. Bye.